Time now for Vikings Fan Line on the Minnesota Vikings Radio Network. Your chance to talk about today's game with the Vikings broadcast team. Add to the conversation on Vikings Fan Line by calling 651-989-KFAN or toll free 1-800-320-5326. Now it's your reaction to all the action. Vikings Fan Line. Here's KFAN's Ron Johnson and Eric Nordquist.
14-7 is the final score here at U.S. Bank Stadium. It is Nordo in for Cory Cove. Week 4 Minnesota Vikings season, they lose to the visiting Cleveland Browns. They lose to that familiar face in Kevin Stefanski, 1-3 on the season. And we'll be getting to your calls momentarily. 651-989-5326. 800-320-5326. Ron Johnson will be joining me around the corner to provide some analysis. And we may also head back down to the locker room shortly to check in with Greg Coleman as he sifts through probably a very disappointed bunch, as outside of their first possession, double-digit plays, nearly 7.5 minutes. They milked down the entire first half of the first quarter on their opening possession, sealed it with a touchdown, and from there on out, possessing roughly 17 minutes the rest of the entire game, as Baker Mayfield, despite an imperfect performance, running the ball through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt all afternoon long en route to that 14-7 victory. So the Vikings at 1-3, fans disappointed. And before we do anything else, let's just jump right into the phone lines, and we'll start with TJ in Austin, Texas. You are on Minnesota Vikings Fan Line.
Hey, boys. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to say, I really think we could get the same out of this team with Andre Patterson as the head coach. It's time to we've gotten whatever we can out of Zimmer. It's time to let him loose. He could probably hitch his wagon to the Cowboys.
Yeah, I appreciate it, TJ. As a matter of fact, I might put you back on hold here. I'd like to get down to the locker room right now as Greg Coleman is with Sheldon Richardson.
9th year out of Missouri. Sheldon, you played for that team that was on the other side of the field. You've been in this locker room. Disappointing as it might be, your defense played lights out today.
We did some good, we did some bad. Just got to play better complementary football, cause more turnovers, just got to be more sound, a little bit better in the run, stopping the run. Can't really say nothing about the offense. They've been holding us down all season, so we just got to do more.
You're playing with your former team, 5 tackles, a lot of those guys on the other side. You held this team, the Cleveland Browns, to 14 points. That's an offensive juggernaut over there.
For the media standpoint, it is. They got to line up every day. We're professionals, too. Just because they got a little star power over there, we don't really care about that. We leave that up for the critics and the opinionators out there. But when it comes down to in between them lines, that's every Sunday. We don't care who you are.
You guys are 1-4, 1-3. Disappointing as it might be, but you're only a couple of plays from this record being totally different.
We need to get them. We need to get those couple plays. Not later, but now. Don't hang your head on this loss, but on to the next. Got to make sure we take care of the division.
That's before we let you go, talking about the division. Next week, Detroit comes in. What's the mindset going to be next week in preparation for these Lions?
Same way as was this week. Just going back to the lab, curating a nice little witch's brew for them, and going out there and executing all cylinders.
Sheldon, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, I love that, preparing a little witch's brew. I don't know what that's going to be like, but it sounds like it's going to be nasty next week up here against these Detroit Lions. I can't wait. Maybe we can bottle that, and maybe use it whenever we need to, huh?
Maybe we can slap a label on it, sell it, make a profit, and win some games. How does that sound, Greg?
Sounds good to me, baby.
Hey, thanks for doing what you do, my friend.
Yep.
That's Greg Coleman down in the locker room. Thanks to Sheldon Richardson for joining. Interesting, precarious moment, and kind of an odd day for Sheldon, who at moments was fantastic in this one. He does call a timeout after the Browns score a touchdown. Kareem Hunt into the end zone. He calls a timeout that the Vikings don't have. And the ensuing penalty allows them half the distance. They switch from an extra point to a 2-point conversion. Fullback gets into the end zone, makes it 8-7 early or late on in the first half. Now, the one thing that he keyed on, and not to forget about what TJ was saying before I interrupted him to go down to the locker room, the concept that we've had enough Zimmer. And 8th year of his time and tenure with the Minnesota Vikings, I would expect nothing less than that to be a fairly consistent talker moving forward, at least as this team now languishes at 1-3. We'll see what happens after next week and a couple of nooners into the bye week. But, as a matter of fact, bringing Greg back into the mix. Greg, Sheldon, in up and down day today.
Take care, baby. Well, just saying pleasantries and goodbyes to Case Keenum, obviously with a big smile on his face. So
yeah,
I didn't really get all of your question or your comment.
Well, let me lay it out for you like this, Greg.
All right.
When you were talking with Sheldon, what I was getting to is we gave up a $184 on the ground today. Now, through 4 games, it's averaging out actually more than the Vikings conceded per game last season. And so Sheldon absolutely nailed it today. Baker was not fantastic. Baker was not explosive or productive. But in some ways, the ability to control the clock and seeing 5-yard chunks, seeing Kareem Hunt get loose there at the end of the first half, stuff like that really causing problems for this defense and contributing to this loss.
Well, he took ownership. I mean, he didn't, put it on the other side, because you look at the time of possession, the 3 and outs and the lack of productivity and conversion on third downs. They got to take care of what they've got to take care of, and you've got to give Cleveland and Joe Woods credit. They had an amazing game plan against this Vikings offense. But back to the defense, Chubb is a load. Hunt is a load, and the last several games we've had mobile quarterbacks. So you just can't play reckless, because Baker can get outside on you and he can hurt you. He did that a couple of times today. But again, it's back to those plays. We talked about being 1 or 2 plays away from being 3-1 instead of 1-3. And just like Sheldon Richardson said, we got to have those 1 or 2 plays, and they haven't been able to do it.
Absolutely. Greg Coleman maybe sticking with me. It might be Ron Johnson. We're kind of on the fly here today as we just think about this 14-7 loss. But when we return, more of your calls, 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. Jeff, Dave, and everybody calling in with an opportunity to sound off. 14-7, the Vikings lose, fall to 1-3 so far in 2021. It's Fan Line. This is Minnesota Vikings football.
The Browns, 3rd and goal from the 1, 18th play of this possession. High formation behind Baker, who's under center. Snap, Hunt, end zone, 7-6 Vikings. Kareem Hunt with his 3rd rushing touchdown this season. And the Cleveland Browns with an 18-play possession finally score. 3 tight ends, 2 to the right, 1 to the left. Mayfield back to pass, throws right. Andy Janovich uncovered for the 2. Andy Janovich, 6th-year fullback from Nebraska, with the 2-point conversion.
Hey, perfect segue. Vikings Fan Line, 14-7. The Vikings lose to the Cleveland Browns, fall to 1-3 in the season. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. Let's line up those calls. But first, with Greg Coleman by my side here, why don't we do this? Let's check in with Kirk Cousins. Well, Kirk Cousins just finished. Okay, Kirk Cousins finishing his press conference, but I want to start there with you, Greg Coleman. This was the first time really since week 1, whether it was a combination of some penalties that were interrupting the flow and momentum of offensive drives. We can get to the refs and some of those calls later on, including an awful call on Eric Kendricks in the end zone. But Kirk Cousins today under a lot of pressure, and that threw a guy that's having an awesome start to the 2021 off his game big time.
Well, yeah, but I do believe that it's a combination. The quarterback has to execute, but also the game plan, the offensive calls. You know that your quarterback is a little shaky when you have that kind of pressure in your face. Any quarterback would. So what do? You revert, you throw what you have initially planned out the window, and you go to your quick rhythm passes. You go to the quick hits. The long developing plays just played right into the Cleveland defense because they've got some horses up there. I mean, Mike Zimmer talked about it. They've got 2 first-round picks, top guys in the draft, from a couple of years ago, and they put pressure on offense like nobody else's business. And we know that sometimes our offensive line has been struggling, but they managed to put a decent game plan together last week. But today with that defense of Clowney and those guys, they might even scare the bejeebers out of anybody. So you've got to give Cousins some help. And I think the longer that went on, the more pressure that he had in his face, guys around his legs. He got hit a couple of times. There was 1 or 2 personal fouls. But when you consistently hit a quarterback, it's going to lodge somewhere in the back of his memory.
Let's get to the phone line, 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. Jeff in Black Duck, welcome to Vikings Fan Line.
Hey, thanks, guys. I guess, in my own opinion, one of the biggest problems in the first half was their time of possession, and actually the whole game, where they kind of wore us down and got some late scores. But for our offense, kind of what Greg said, I don't remember any slants or screens, which worked well for us last week. And, of course, some of the calls in critical times, penalties that should have been always seem to go the other way. But that's my opinion, and thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And to you, Greg, I mean, that is a big talker. 7.5 minutes, that opening drive for the Vikings, you get the touchdown. They possessed about 17 minutes the remainder of the game. They had trouble staying on the field.
Well, you got to give Joe Woods credit. Cleveland came up with a great defensive scheme. They've got some big, tall guys on the edges. So when your quarterback tries to dump those balls over the heads of those defensive linemen, it throws all of the timing off. And when you're not opening holes on your slants, on your quick hitting plays, it plays right into their defense because they know the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to go, play action, we're going to go screen passes. And they were laying in the cut, waiting on those screen passes, and we just could not execute. And I think that was a big part. So you take away what has been a great advantage for this offense, and then Cookie was on a pitch count. He wasn't, he said he got dinged up. So, again, when you don't have one of your best offensive players on the field from a consistent standpoint, you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that plays into this for me, too, and it's kind of it's an ongoing frustration, is just bleeding yards with this rush defense right now, and adding Dalvin Tomlinson, adding Michael Pierce. We saw it even a week ago. It was Chris Carson of the Seahawks with 7-8 yards on first down. And as good as this run operation is with the Browns, there's no discounting that. That is becoming a massive point of contention for me when you can, whether it's out to the perimeter. We saw Nick Vigil just absolutely whiffing on a couple of opportunities to stop these guys today. And when they knife up the middle like that and they make one move, there's a ton of green. And this is really becoming, through 4 games, I think, a big part of the story of why this team is at 1-3.
Recognition is one thing. I mean, a guy can be in position, but you've got to execute. You've got to make the plays when you have the opportunity to, because when that doesn't happen, when you get these big running backs, they can get on the second and third level. Before you know it, you talk about time of possession, it's first down after first down after first down, and it wears you down. And these guys are not going to complain about the lack of offensive productivity. Sheldon, definitely is not laying blame. But I'm telling you, man, it makes a difference. So, again, your point is well taken. Who says that this team is not missing Anthony Barr at this time? But they're missing something. They're missing execution. And this guy who's coming up here now, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski, have nothing but respect and love for him. He's done a great job with that organization, and he did a great job here. Here's his kids running out on the field, and it's great to see. Kevin has been just a great guy, and much success to him as well.
Absolutely. Hey, and thanks to you for hanging out with me a bit of extra time today. Great work as usual, from the preach all the way through the chat with the coach and with me now. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Anytime, my brother.
That's Greg Coleman, sideline analyst, pregame preach aficionado, and he's with us, of course, as part of the Vikings radio broadcast every week. Next time you'll hear from him next Sunday. Let's check in with Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson, fan line, 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. When he returns, Dave, Terry, Chuck, Matt, Mike, and many more will take your calls and break down the 14-7 loss. Vikings falling to 1-3 after losing to Stefanski's Browns. It's KFAN and the Minnesota Vikings Radio Network.
Third and goal from the 12. Nice pocket. Fires! Touchdown! Justin Jefferson with a 12-yard touchdown, and the Minnesota Vikings strike first. Madison sprints out right. Cousins with a fade into single coverage left side, and it is caught. Yes, it is. KJ Osborne involved in 3 consecutive plays. An acrobatic 19-yard grab. 1st and 10 Vikings from the Brownies 41.
Welcome back, Vikings fan line. Here on your home for Vikings football, The Fan, Minnesota Vikings Radio Network and beyond. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. Joining me now, one of Gopher greats and an analyst here for Vikings fan line on a week-to-week basis, Ron Johnson. Joining us, I believe, from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center down in the radio studio dungeon of sorts. How you doing, Ron?
I'm good. How's it going?
Well, that's good. I'm a little annoyed with the outcome of today's game. And,
I think everybody is.
Coming back from break, you heard those 2 highlights. It was the touchdown to Justin Jefferson. It was an absolutely beautiful 1v1 catch on the sideline, a little drag. It was challenged. It was held up. That catch by KJ Osborne, nice start to the season for him. What did you think that they did overall to limit Adam Thielen today, who really wasn't the A topic for this receiving offense when Kirk was actually able to find his way downfield?
Yeah, I don't know if they actually limited, like it was their doing. I think it was more so just when you look at where Kirk Cousins' eyes were. Like a lot of times he came off of Adam right away and went to kind of where the coverage dictated. So in most of the zone looks, there were times where he could have probably got it to Adam if he waited, but I don't think he had time. And I think that was it. It was the time, I guess, that would have taken Adam out of it, because his route might have been the secondary route where Justin or the running back or the tight end was kind of the quick like read, or even the fade route to KJ Osborne. Those are quick twitch, 3-step. Okay, that guy's my guy. But if it's the hitch and then I have 2 more, a 5-step, he didn't have time. Like there wasn't a ton of time every single time to wait for, whatever route possibly was going to Thielen. Because teams definitely aren't going to say, I'm going to take Thielen out and we're going to force you to beat us with Justin Jefferson. Like nobody's doing that. I think it's just the play, the way it dictated. That's how it rolled out today. It's the play calling, and players have to live with that.
That makes sense to me. Now, a guy that's been lauded for the most part over the course of 3 weeks into the season, new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. And by way of penalties and just kind of a really discombobulated game against Cincinnati, that didn't go the right way. But otherwise, everyone's been talking about Clint kind of in conjunction with a fast start for Kirk Cousins. Was there anything in the way of how this offensive flowed today where you're either scratching your head, you're wondering why they didn't do this, why this happened, or just anything in terms of Clint, anything that could have been done differently today?
That's a tough one, and that's one of those ones where you have to go back and watch the game over from a coach's eye and look at some of the play call and look at the coverage. But I said this at the pregame, and a lot of people tried to take this out or negate that this is a big issue. A guy like Kevin Stefanski was Kirk Cousins' confidant. We know that him and Mike Zimmer had a rocky relationship early on. We've heard the back-end stories of maybe Mike Zimmer didn't want Kirk Cousins here. Who knows, from tweets or whatever. If that happens, Yeah, and if that happens and a person can kind of feel like, okay, well, if I'm not wanted by this guy or this regime or whatever, who are you going to go, whose couch are you going to sit on? If you're looking for a counselor, whose couch? Well, you're going to your quarterback's coach, and that was Kevin Stefanski. So he's sitting on Kevin Stefanski's couch telling him everything. And I said this on the program with Brandon Molesky this week on the Common Man Show, and so, or the Tina Fitzgerald. And I said this, I said, Kevin Stefanski knows what Kirk Cousins is scared of. If Kirk Cousins is scared of teddy bears, Stefanski knows that. If Kirk Cousins is fearful of this, Stefanski knows that. So what is he going to do? He's going to do things in that defense to force him to look away at certain things, whether it was pre-snap read on the Justin touchdown. Pre-snap, it looked like the linebacker ran with the tight end, but he just reset and they still played a zone behind it. I think a lot of those things kind of mess with Kirk just a little bit. And, that's what was perplexing about the play calling is like, why not, do a little bit more, which Stefanski has never seen, which is shifts, movements, a lot of, start on this side. And he did motion for the most part, but I think there could have been some more motion, some more shifts to kind of help out and give Kirk an idea. And at the end of the day, you got to have some trick plays. Like, even if it's just 2 or 3, you got to have some stuff in there that nobody's seen, especially when you're going up against a guy that kind of knows you. That when he sees this play, he's like, what in the heck is this? Whether it's 6 offensive linemen, you bring Christian Darrisaw in as the offensive tackle, and Rashad Hill plays tight end on this play just to kind of do something different. Load it up, maybe go 2 tight ends, extra lineman, and then 1 receiver, and just try to pound it to that side and then turn around. Because we know Jadeveon Clowney was never really a great run stopper. He's never been, and that's why you run at him. You tire him down, you wear him out so that when it comes to the pass, he doesn't have that same motor. And it just didn't seem like, and whether Dalvin Cook's, wasn't 100% and they didn't want to go that route, or, and if that's the case, I say give Alexander Madison the ball. Play it like you played Seattle. And that's why I felt a little different today.
I dig it. Let's go to the phone lines here. That's Ron Johnson. How about Matt? Matt, welcome to Vikings Fan Line. Wants to talk about the Vikings defense. What up, man?
Hi, thank you for putting me on. The Vikings defense, last year we were a mash unit, and our offense played good pretty much all year. And we had an off game today offensively. But if our defense continues to play as well as they did today, we will make the playoffs instead of have a 7-9 record like last year. So, and we got some lighter teams coming up. You heard the coach say basically the same thing, and it is the truth. And I'm positive. I feel good about the rest of the year, even after our loss today.
Well, I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for calling in. The Vikings, by all accounts, they held Baker Mayfield. And I do want to get to Baker with you, Ron, because I don't know if it's so much that we held Baker Mayfield to the day that he had today. Very mediocre, 143 pass yards, as much as it was him missing receivers and just really not making good decisions throughout the day, but that's a different talker. I'm stuck on this, Ron, and maybe you can give me your insight. You love the fact that you shut out Seattle the way you did last week for about the final 40 minutes of the game. That's awesome. You win 30-17. I get it. And you only allow 14 points to the Browns today. But we saw 3rd and 20 conversions by the Browns. There was a 3rd and 10. There was a mix-up. Rashard Higgins, I think it was either him or Hooper with a long catch. Suddenly, Bashaud Breeland gets sick, and he can't come back in the game. This is a week-to-week thing, and I understand the 14 points. That sounds fantastic, and we love it. I have some issues with this defense from a coverage perspective and stopping the run. What say you, Ron?
Sorry, say that again. You got long. I heard the Bashaud Breeland part.
The defense, your thoughts, Ron?
Oh, yeah. So, the defense – it was the Baker Mayfield part, too. That's the part I was stuck on. So, the go to the Baker Mayfield part, I agree with you. I don't know if it was so much our defense stopped him, but Stefanski limited him. But there's a reason why he does that. If you look at Baker Mayfield on 3rd down, he was 10 for 16 coming into this game, 62.5%. And he had a 58.6 passer rating. He's not great. You know, like that's the key is like, how do I make sure if there's a quarterback that I don't really think is great, how can I make him better? Well, one, I'm going to commit to the run, regardless if it's 3rd and 10 or if it's 3rd and 20. I'm probably still going to run the ball and keep it safe. Like, he's not attacking down the field. We looked at his scatter chart on the Vikings postgame show, and it was very mundane. It was like one pass was deep, and then the rest were all kind of short drop-off screens. And so our defense didn't really have time. And when they gave him, when he had time in the pocket, it collapsed, and we got to him. So I think that's more so of Stefanski just realizing Baker is not a guy that I need to waste you don't need to go win every game for us. We've built a defense here that is good. And so if I feel like my defense is good enough to keep us in games, why risk it by making my quarterback do things that he does not have to do, where we can win some of these 14-7, 10-12 drag out fights? And that's where Baker Mayfield is at. Our defense in turn, I don't know. I think Bashaud Breeland, like if you look at after the fact he came out with illness or whatever, I don't even know how or when, or did he get sick before the game? Was he sick coming to the game? But it was 3rd and I don't know what, but it was a man-to-man route. There was 3 DBs, 3 receivers. They were in a bunch set. It was like in the second quarter or first quarter, I think the first drive. And it was a simple, Xavier Woods is going to take the deepest and first inside, and then you're going to have the second guy come outside. Bashaud Breeland and Xavier Woods were covering the same guy. And then he throws it to Higgins. It's like, and he had vision to both. If you see both coming at you, you know you don't need to stay deep with the deepest, because you have to trust that your safety is going to be back there. Najee Patterson brought that up with Barrero about, hey, there are some guys doing their own thing, trying to be the hero. Like, and maybe that was Breeland in that instance thinking, oh, he's going to go deep, so I'm going to be back here and be the hero and get this interception, versus, well, I'm going to cover my guy. If he throws it over my head and the safety's not there, that's on him. And I think that's some of the things that have to get fixed. They have to stop thinking that they need to be, like he says, put a cape on and make the play. You just got to play the defense, as I call it, and let the chips fall where they fall. And that's where some of the errors are happening.
How about that, Ron? You are so damn good at what you do. You didn't listen to my entire question, and you ended up referencing the exact same play I asked about. That's why you're the best. Ron Johnson.
I heard it. It was just so much. I was trying to make sure, looking at my notes.
No, I got you, my man. It's Ron Johnson.
I'm sauced it. I heard that in the background.
I'm Nordo from 9 to noon. This is Vikings Fan Line. Whether it was coverage breakdowns, the run defense, whatever it was, issues on offense, Kirk hitting the ground twice today, the Vikings lose to the Cleveland Browns, and Kevin Stefanski fall to 1-3. Continuing to look at your calls here, it is Dave, Terry, Chuck, Mike, and so many more. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. More around the corner on KFAN and the Minnesota Vikings Radio Network.
In the same space. Isn't it time you took life off pause and hit play? Omni Viking Lakes Hotel invites you to rediscover fun again with world-class amenities and unique dining outlets. Your playlist is endless. Explore the Nordic-inspired design. Indulge your palate with cuisine from local celebrity chef Ann Kim at Kindred Hearth, or relax with a Nordic spa experience at Idlewild Spa. Visit omnihotels.com/Viking Lakes for more.
You don't need an illness to need a doctor. You don't need to feel sick to feel better. You don't need to be unwell to get well. What you do need is a primary care physician or provider at Sanford Health. Better health care starts with regular wellness visits and a familiar face who knows you, your concerns, and your goals. We're here before you need us. We're here when you need us. We're here after you need us. We're here for you. Find your primary care physician or provider at sanfordhealth.org today.
Welcome to the fourth industrial revolution, a revolution powered by data and applications, AI and IoT. And now there's one company born to enable it, Lumen, the platform for next-generation business that combines adaptive networking, edge cloud, connected security, and collaboration. Lumen delivers the next-gen architecture that next-gen apps require. Say hello to Lumen, the platform for amazing things. Learn more at lumen.com.
Using former Viking Elijah Lee as linebacker. Cousins stepped away from the pressure until now, and he's sacked back at the 25-yard line. Myles Garrett was in the mix, likewise for veteran Malik Jackson. A loss of 4 yards. Cousins under center. He goes play action. Jadeveon Clowney was blocked nicely. Here's a pass, left side single. Coverage! And, oh, come on. Incomplete or picked off?
It's picked off.
Wow. Thielen, looked like Thielen had it, but Greedy Williams picks him off.
Welcome back, Minnesota Vikings fan line. The Vikings fall to the Cleveland Browns 14-7. Now firmly planted third in the NFC North Division at 1-3. I believe the Bears beat the Lions today. So the Lions, new head coach guy and everybody, they're 0-4. Bears are 2-2. Packers and Steelers, and we'll actually get an update momentarily. Our afternoon scoreboard correspondent is standing by at a moment's notice, but Ron Johnson is here with me to take your calls, 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. This is, I believe, the final segment of Minnesota Vikings Fan Line before we let the network go. And at that stage, we'll continue to take your calls. You can hear us live, 100.3 FM The Fan, or with the free iHeartRadio app. Get that thing on, give us a call, and give us your thoughts. Ron, we're going to jump right back into the phone lines and listen. Let's hear from Howard in Chicago. Welcome to Vikings Fan Line.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This team is going to be lucky to have 7 wins. And while I'm a huge Viking fan, I also deal with reality. They couldn't stop their run with a below-average quarterback playing against them, and they couldn't protect their quarterback. Cleveland wasn't healthy, and we put a whopping 7 points up. What makes it worse is we put them all up in the first drive. The offensive line is below average. Rashad Hill can't play. They can play against bad teams. They can't play against good teams. And if you look after the game of Detroit, they have 6 more games against teams that are playoff teams. I want to see, someone's got to tell me, outside of maybe the Lions and the Bears, where we have 3 more wins. I don't see it. And I don't know how much you blame Zimmer, but you have to blame management for this bad offensive line.
Well, thanks, Howard.
You drafted Davis. Where is he? He hasn't seen the field.
Absolutely. Thank you, Howard. And, yeah, okay. I mean, that's kind of morose, isn't it? I mean, it's an awful loss in the regard that it was right there in our grasp the entire time. Right. But I'm not able to start going game by game the rest of the season and figure out the total win-loss record. Are you ready for that yet, Ron? I'm not.
No, not yet, but we're going to have to do it at some point. But to his point, I get it. It's frustration. But in 2008, the Minnesota Vikings went 1-3, and they made the playoffs. Ooh. Now, they are the last team to have done that. But since 1990, there's been about 14 or 15 teams that went 1-3 that still made the playoffs. The cool thing about the playoffs, your conference matters the most. So the Lions are terrible. The Bears aren't great, and the Packers are struggling. And so it's not like the Packers are, and even though they're up now 14-7 on the Steelers, they're within arm's reach. Like, you only have to beat them, and you probably take care. Like, if you take care of them yourself, you probably put yourself first place in the NFC North. We forget the NFC East last year was a dumpster fire and somebody had to make the playoffs. So it's not really over until somebody really in the NFC North just goes head and shoulders in front of everybody and says, we have a 4-game lead and it's ours, it's ours to lose now. Nobody's done that yet. It's early in the season. They're 1-3. They still can make the playoffs. I mean, there's the probability last week at 1-2 was a 32% chance of them making the first round of the playoffs. So it's still there. I mean, my guess is it probably went down to 24% or something. Who knows? But it's within reach. Like, players in the locker room aren't sitting there thinking what this guy's thinking. Like, we're not gonna. There's another game on our schedule that we're gonna win. These guys are getting paid millions of dollars to realize, you know what, we still can do this. They lost by 7 today. They won last week against Seattle handedly, and it looked good. They lost by a field goal that they could have made, and same with the Bengals, could have won. So it's not like they're a 1-3 team that they have had no hope in any of these games. They've been in every single game. Now, it sucks to say that 3 of them didn't go their way, but they've been in every single game. Yeah. So, again, let's let the rest – I mean, it's 17 games this year, so let's let it play out. Let's see what happens.
Well, yeah, enjoy the ride, certainly. And you mentioned 2008, which was great. The Vikings do indeed make the playoffs. I believe they won the North. Promptly got their asses kicked at the Metrodome by the visiting Philadelphia Eagles. It was Asante Samuel. It was Westbrook. It was nasty on that particular day. But fast forward to now, though, the one thing, without trying to look forward into the season, I think there are a lot of Vikings fans out there, and we'll continue to take calls here, leading you up to Vikings overtime with Saucy, A.J. Mansour. I think I'll stick around for that as well. But a lot of these callers frustrated with the idea that just now at this stage, making the playoffs is like that's the benchmark for a positive season. Does that make sense, Ron? Where, 8th year of Zimmer, all of these things kind of boiling over here. Highly compensated quarterback that has been playing very well recently. You got Dalvin, and you got this defense, you think, even though there have been some issues with that. But 8th year in the tenure, and you're just talking about trying to rebound to make the playoffs. There's a lot of Vikings fans out there that are pissed off at that concept, and I agree with them.
I get it, but again, it's all about the playoffs because you just need a chip, chair, and a chance. So if they get there, now first round exit, yeah, you probably can. But we don't know until they get there who they're going to play. They might mess around and win the NFC North with a 7-10 record. Like, it can happen because the Packers, barely beat the 49ers. The Steelers game is far from over. So, and again, they still have to play the Vikings twice. The Bears get real sneaky when they play the Packers for some reason every once in a while. The Lions, every once in a while, find a way to do something to the Packers in that second game when they go to Detroit because weird things have happened where, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't complete a, 80-yard Hail Mary, the Lions win. So, again, it's like Aaron Rodgers, I've never had to scroll 2 pages to get to his stats as a quarterback. He is behind, what's his name, Heineke. Like, as of now. Now, he might have a great game today, but coming in this week, he was behind Taylor Heineke. So, Aaron Rodgers has not looked great. He missed a lot of time, too. So, we can't the benchmark, yeah, they have to make the playoffs. I mean, you look at the draft, though, nobody's really stepped up from this class of draft picks either. So, it's almost been, Christian Darrisaw was supposed to be the tackle. I think that might have changed today with Myles Garrett not being able to just abuse Rashad Hill. Like, there's a lot of factors into this that, of course, Spillman and the owners are going to have to take into account that this year's draft class hasn't really stepped up yet and said, hey, we're here to help.
Very good point. Let's take a brief. We're not going to take a break. I do want to throw it over to our special afternoon scoreboard correspondent here on Vikings Fan Line to give us some updates from around the league. Meat Sauce Paul Lambert, take it away.
Thank you, Nordo. Ron, that big game for Aaron Rodgers is currently happening. He's thrown a touchdown and ran one in. They're up 14-7 on the Steelers. Ravens 14, Broncos 7. Marquise Brown, has a touchdown, 2 catches for 55 yards. The Ravens up 14-7. Seahawks 49ers tied at 7-7. DK Metcalf has a touchdown early in that one. And the Cardinals are up 21-13 on the undefeated Rams. They just kicked a field goal to make it 21-13. Nordo?
Thank you very much, Meat Sauce Paul Lambert, giving us scoreboard updates specifically on members of his fantasy team. Let's get back to the phone lines. I'm Nordo. That's Ron Johnson. Terry in Spirit Lake. You're on Vikings Fan Line.
Hey, Nordo and Ron. Good to talk to you guys today.
Good to have you.
All week this week, you heard the scribe and an MVP performance by our quarterback. And I'll tell you, I didn't see an MVP performance today. What I saw was happy feet, very happy feet. And when he gets that look in his eye, he can't get rid of the ball quick enough because he knows he's going to end up on his keister, and that's not a good look for him.
Hey, thank you so much, Terry. To you, Ron, that is actually kind of bringing us back to where we were discussing things just momentarily ago.
Mm-hmm.
Malik Jackson, not as elite as he was on that game-changing line in Denver, but can still play. Malik McDowell kind of getting his second chance in the NFL on the interior with the Browns after being drafted by the Seahawks. I think he's out of Michigan State. And then they were kind of moving Jadeveon Clowney on the interior today. They were kind of doing a bit of what the Vikings defense did so well against Larry Warford and the New Orleans Saints in that playoff game a couple of years ago, moving your fast, strong bodies to the interior and pushing. And we had some issues with that today. And Kirk, when he has protection, plays like an MVP. Kirk, when there's garbage at his feet, he struggled, and he did today.
Yeah, and I wonder where Stefanski learned that from.
Weird.
Man, if only somebody was playing chess and could have thought about what could Stefanski do that he's seen me do that worked. Like, I hats off to him. Like, he knows that works. He's seen it work. Like, he's listened to the coaching staff talk about why it's going to work. And at no point did anybody think about that. Like, what is our play if that happens? If a DN comes inside, do we have something sneaky to run like a quick dump, like you fake the screen to the right, let those fast guys come in, and then throw a dump off screen to the other side, whether it's a tight end, it's a running or receiver coming inside, or running back on just a quick out go or a go, because now it's man to man. When most times when they blitz, you're not going to have a zone behind it because you are creating that mismatch and hoping the quarterback makes that mistake of holding on to the ball. And so he just was better at the chess game today. Like, Stefanski did some of those things that Zimmer, and again, we know Zimmer's not dialed in, into the offensive meeting room all the time, even though him and Kirk now are having meetings. But that's some of the things that they have to think about. Like, how do we account for if Stefanski does this? Even if he doesn't do this, that's what the point of coaches meeting from, 6 a.m. to 7 to 8 to 10, p.m. is. They're thinking about every possible scenario, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you, Ron. Getting to see the Browns up close today, and I know they lost it to Chiefs. They kind of do what Zimmer wants to do, but thus far in 2021, they're doing it better, if that makes sense. They run the hell out of the ball. 100%. This defense, I thought it was fraudulent, man, because coming in, their defense allowed 3.1 a carry. And that was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That was not Derrick Henry. That was David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay with the Texans. And Montgomery's okay with the Bears, but he's not Dalvin. Nobody's freaking Dalvin. And this rushing attack can be pretty damn good, too. And they just stomped on us today. It's kind of like Stefanski and Joe Woods and Prefer and all those guys, very familiar with the purple and gold. They're kind of doing our thing just a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You want a pair of running backs, and we saw that with Dalvin Cook and Madison in the past. Today, neither got going. The Browns, Stefanski, I keep saying that. Stefanski is not going to put Baker Mayfield in the position to lose games for him because he's heard that over and over being a Minnesota coach. Like, let's not let our quarterback beat us. We're going to be defensive-minded. A lot of offensive-minded coaches go into teams like San Francisco, some of the other teams, and they make that mistake, like Green Bay. They make that mistake sometimes of focusing on the offense and building the offense, and they forget about the defense. Defensive-minded coaches, vice versa. They go into a team, and they forget about the defense, and about the offense, and they're so worried about their defense, which, that's what people always wonder. How much is Mike Zimmer paying attention to the offense when he's the defensive coordinator? And so that's what Stefanski's doing there. He's like, I'm an offensive-minded guy, but, hey, I got to be dialed in to make sure my defense is doing what we need it to do to make it successful. And if you look at the Browns, on first and second down, before this game, they had 86 rushes on first and second down, which was the third most in the NFL. On third down, they actually had 13 rushes, which was the second most in the NFL, and they still were at a 42.4% first down to touchdown on third down. And so he's putting him in third and short. Like, they only faced third and 7+ 5 times this season. That's the least. They had the least amount of third and 7+ coming into this game. He's not getting in third and longs. Like, he's not allowing Baker Mayfield to feel that pressure. And I think that's what his offense is going to be predicated on, is when they get forced into third and long, what is Baker Mayfield going to do? Well, that's what's even more interesting. Of those 5 plays, he still averaged 7.8 yards to go, and he ended up getting 13.6 yards, which was third in the NFL on third down when it's third and 7+. So he's he doesn't have a lot of opportunities, and he's throwing screens. He's throwing, he's throwing short passes and letting his guys go make the first down for him. He's not in there making those tough Kirk Cousins type throws, those Aaron Rodgers type lasers, those Matthew Stafford type darts. He's not doing that. Stefanski's giving him plays to say, hey, I'm going to call a great screen, like the screen he did to Austin Hooper. That was awesome. I mean, it was smart. Up the middle, you kind of look to your right, make people think, okay, it's going to be some kind of screen right. Boom, come right back to my left quick, and that's the screen to my tight end. No, all the linebackers are going with the quarterback's eyes, and they forget about Austin Hooper. First down. I mean, that's what this team is going to be, and that's going to take them a long way because they're not allowing him to throw interceptions and create turnovers where they're putting their defense back on the field real fast. They're eating up clock, and that's the other thing. The first quarter, I think, was done in like 20 minutes. So that was one of the fastest first quarters I've sat through where I was like, wow, this feels like this game's going to be over by 2 o'clock. And that's what the Browns are doing. And Mike, you're right. Mike Zimmer wants to have that, and they just don't have it this year yet.
Absolutely. That's Ron Johnson. I'm Nordo from 9 to noon. At this point, we're going to let our greater radio network take the rest of the day off. The next time you hear from us on the Greater Vikings Radio Network will be next Sunday at 11 a.m. The Vikings are hosting the winless Detroit Lions, an opportunity for the Vikings maybe to get some confidence and some rhythm back, Stella getting her groove back, beat up on the Kitties, and improve to 2-3. But still an opportunity. Chuck, Tim, Dave, Mark, Mike, and Kendrick. We're still going to take your calls on the local side of things, 100.3 FM, The Fan, the free iHeartRadio network. You can call 651-989-5326, 1-800-320-5326, and sound off. Vikings lose 14-7 and are now 1-3. Ron Johnson's here, and many of your calls around the corner for at least the next hour before we hand off to Vikings overtime. This has been KFAN and the Minnesota Vikings Radio Network, driven by Polaris.
Vikings Fan Line now continues on FM 100.3 KFAN and the Fan Radio Network. Vikings Fan Line on the Fan is presented by Comcast, Honda, Youngsteads, TimberTech, Carboni's Pizzeria, and by Shift Real Estate. To join in on the conversation on Fan Line, call 651-989-KFAN or 800-320-5326. Now it's your reaction to all the action. Vikings Fan Line. Here's KFAN's Ron Johnson and Eric Nordquist.
14-7, the final. Vikings lose to the Cleveland Browns. All of the melodrama included. It's coach versus former OC. You got Joe Woods in the mix, coaching defensive backs with the Vikings. Now he's handling the defense for Stefanski. Mike Prefer used to be our special teams coordinator. Now he's their special teams coordinator. And all of them are very happy en route back to Cleveland, the armpit of the Rust Belt. I'm just jealous, to be honest with you. Ron Johnson joining me. Love Kevin Stefanski. Love all of them except when they play our team. 651-989-5326. 800-320-5326. Ron, I'm going to get your Liuna, hardest working player of the game. I'm going to get that from you momentarily, and we can chat about it because I like the name, albeit in a losing effort. But I do want to hit some of these phone calls here, and we're going to start with Chuck. Heading up to North Dakota. Chuck from North Dakota, you're on Vikings Fan Line.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I think my biggest frustration is have to do with front office. You know, I'm not a Cousin basher. He can do some really good things, but you grab Cousins and you know his strengths. Maybe we should build the team to suit his strengths, not his weaknesses. That's my biggest frustration.
Well, I appreciate it, Chuck. In terms of the front office in particular with Mr. Spielman and some of these drafts, you've been doing Fan Line for a while now, Ron. How many times has Spielman, draft picks, front office decisions come up over the course of your tenure?
I'd say 200 for I mean, it comes up every year, every week almost, like, and especially in losses. People always want to go there. But I don't know if the caller's gone. I would love to banter and just ask him, what are Kirk Cousins' strengths? Like, people say generic cliche things like that, like build it around his strengths. Yeah. What are his strengths? Like, what are we going to build it around? Like, what does he do great that you're like, this is what we need to have as far as an offense? Because honestly, I feel like they have it. Like, he's not a runner, so they don't have offensive linemen that are like, you know, young, quick, moving, you know, get out of the pocket type linemen. You know, he's a thrower. We have receivers. We have tight ends, or, you know, Irv's hurt, but we have tight ends. We have running backs to run the play action. Like, what else can they do besides build a wall? Like, right. They pretty much built the team. I mean, Christian Darrisaw getting hurt. They got him a left tackle. Like, people say the most cliche things, and they really don't know what they're talking about. Like, sorry, I try not to be rude, but to that caller, he has no idea what he's talking about. Like, he's built the team around Kirk Cousins' strengths. Like, do you even know what Kirk Cousins' strengths are to say something like that? Like, build a team around Kirk Cousins' strengths. Well, what are they, sir? Like, what are his strengths in your mind that they're not building the team around? Because in my mind, they've built the team around his strengths, which get him receivers. You get him an offensive tackle who's hurt now. You get him offensive guard and Wyatt Davis, who has not seen the field yet. Yeah. So, I mean, it just hasn't come to fruition yet. Yeah, it hasn't materialized. Like, I think they're doing it. They got him the best running back in the NFL. Like, what else can they do? Like, I really don't know. Like, they've given him everything. Yeah. So we got to stop blaming the front office as if, like, there's this magic. I can see if we had, Justin Fields, and we built an offense to sit back in the pocket all day, or Lamar Jackson, and we're just making him throw every play. Like, they built it around his strengths. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that doesn't make sense.
No, I'm with you, and I would say that the front office certainly is worthy of criticism, whether it is about specific draft picks and all of those things. But you know, where I'm really hesitant and I'm struggling with it, I want to watch it back again and just decide whether I'm gonna rip it or just be patient. This Vikings offensive line has actually been or looked and produced an exemplary effort through the first 3 games. Now today on the interior, some of this stuff kind of reared its ugly head again. And so how much is it about 1v1, the other guy gets a chance to win too, or was there a bit of a facade or a mirage taking place over the last couple of weeks? It's very difficult for me to weed through that and get to the right answer, but sometime this week I will. Now, back to the phone lines. Ron Johnson, stick with me here. Let's go to, let's stay in North Dakota. First it was Chuck, now it's Mike from North Dakota. Welcome to Vikings Fan Line.
Yeah, this is Mike from North Dakota. Oh, by the way, Chuck, you got me?
Yeah, I got you. Continue.
All right. Hey, listen, I think the Viking fans really need this to chill out. The Vikings have a good team, for starters. I think the one main thing in this game, it came down to close calls. And I think the Vikings and Cleveland really were matched up really well. Cleveland just a wee bit of a heads up on the matchup. But I think Zim's call on the 4th down and 6 late in the first half really was, I just mentioned that to my son, Jake. Man, we're watching the game, and I go, like, this is going to be big. They didn't get that first down, and it really played big in that first half.
Well, I appreciate you calling in, yeah, and how close this matchup was throughout the game, and a call here, a call there. Both teams right out of the gates, by the way, going for it on 4th down, and Stefanski taking the risk towards the end of that first quarter on their opening elongated drive, and they come away with nothing. But the Vikings didn't score again after the midway point of the first quarter. So Stefanski's on that flight back feeling good. Hey, Ron, before we go to break, our good friends at Liuna, they would like to know who your hardest working player of the game is. Give me that name.
Well, I said Nick Chubb, but I'm not sure you wanted me to go with that one.
Well, okay. So Nick Chubb was fantastic. Kareem Hunt was awesome. That run game, that's kind of, we could just lump all of that in together. But just for the sake of the purpose, can you just pick somebody, albeit in a losing effort, that you enjoyed watching today?
Yeah, and Danielle Hunter. I enjoyed Danielle Hunter. He put pressure on Baker Mayfield, which allowed Everson Griffin to get a sack. Then he got the sack of his own. And then also in Dalvin Tomlinson's sack as well, he forced Baker Mayfield to kind of flush out the pocket, and then Dalvin got the sack. So he was kind of responsible, or in some way, form, or fashion, of all 3 sacks. So he's playing hard, and I'm glad to see him back after missing an entire season. Everybody was trying to say, like, is he going to be the same Danielle? Yep, he's the same Danielle. So it was good to see him today, and he worked his butt off. 7 combined tackles. He was flying around the field like we've seen before.
Yeah, he certainly was, and given the lopsided time of possession, Danielle Hunter, Dalvin Tomlinson, Everson Griffin, they certainly got their fair share of reps today. Hang tight, Ron. We're going to take a break. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. Mike, Tim, Dave, Mark, Kendrick on the line. Many more to come. It's Vikings Fan Line. But I do want to hit an emergency afternoon scoreboard update from our local correspondent, Meat Sauce Paul Lambert. Massive news out west. What is happening, Sauce? Saucy?
Jimmy Garoppolo has a calf injury, so Trey Lance has opened the second half as the quarterback for the 49ers. That game is 7-7. The Packers are about to kick a field goal to make it 17-10 over the Steelers, and the Ravens 14, the Broncos 7. And the Cardinals and Rams are battling it out, and that game is 21-13. Both of those teams are 3-0.
Wow, thank you, Meat Sauce Paul Lambert. Big news in that Seahawks-Niners game. Apparently, Sauce took the Niners. When we return, more of your calls. Vikings fan line, 14-7, the final score. Vikings now 1-3 in the season. I'm Nordo from 9 to noon. Ron Johnson with me. We'll be back. It's
Vikings football heard here on FM 100.3 KFAN, The Fan.
The Browns, 3rd and goal from the 1. 18th play of this possession. High formation behind Baker, who's under center. Snap, punt, end zone, 7-6 Vikings. Kareem Hunt with his 3rd rushing touchdown this season. And the Cleveland Browns with an 18-play possession finally score.
Woo, that made it 7-6 Vikings. And I believe it was Sheldon Richardson who tried to call a timeout on the extra point, a timeout that the Vikings did not have. And that led to the penalty. That led to half the distance. They go from kicking an extra point to the 2-point. They get it. Janovich, the fullback, it was 8-7, and they never looked back. 14-7, just one touchdown apiece for the Vikings and the Browns. A couple of field goals from Chase McLaughlin. Truly the difference in this one. And Ron Johnson here, it is Vikings fan line, and the Vikings fall to 1-3. Ron, I'm going to try this because I messed it up on Twitter. Other people have messed it up on the radio. This is just a dumb stat, but I don't care. I just want to make sure I get it right. Ron Johnson, the Vikings, since 9:23 to go in the fourth quarter of Week 1, that was a 1-yard Dalvin Cook touchdown. The Vikings have not scored an offensive touchdown in the second half since. So 9 minutes, 23 seconds left to go in the Cincy game, Week 1. They've now been shut out with an offensive touchdown in the second half of 3 consecutive games. Wow. We have been very happy overall with up until this game. It was 8 touchdowns, no picks by Kirk Cousins, and just how things had looked. But ultimately, finishing games with touchdowns, that's becoming a massive problem, especially in games like this where you kind of needed one just to get to overtime.
Wow. There's no words for that. Like, I think that? Pete Burcich brought up, too, like the defense has struggled in the second quarter as well. So I don't know if it's the momentum piece where, like, leaving out of the second quarter, the team just is kind of deflated, and it takes a while for them to kind of mentally get back into it. But, yeah that's not good. They have to, and maybe that is it. Maybe they have to clean up second down first, or second quarter first, and start to dominate the second quarter so that going into the half. But, I mean, there's been some questionable going into the half stuff. Remember, I think it was like the onside, not the onside, but the squib kick. Yeah, and then gave them more yards to get back Prater up and get a field goal.
62, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of questionable second quarter moves that, going into the half, if you're mentally, like, out of it, like, man, like, just flat, that could affect the team. And so that could be the answer for what your stat just read.
Well, and to your point, I guess in 3 out of the 4 games, too, and because I wrote it incorrectly on Twitter, so I got to make sure that I get it right. Just in
not
case,
the Twitter people.
Correct, just in case people get frustrated about it. Okay, Ron? So in 3 of the 4 games, we've given up a touchdown in the final 2 minutes of the first half. So that all plays into the momentum, too. There's just, whether it's our 4-minute offense, it's our 2-minute defense, these, typically, as you know, just from being around this game most of your life, those are big spot parts of offense and defense. And when neither of those things are going particularly well, we see a team maybe fall to 1-3.
Yeah, again, everybody says this is a game of inches. It's also a game of seconds. Like, there's, we've seen that where Aaron Rodgers, we think he has no time left, and they give him a second back. There's times here and there where that's where a lot of coaches actually focus on that. What is our 2-minute defense? What is our strategy here? What are we trying to keep them from doing? And I'm not saying Mike Zimmer hasn't done that. I think like the timeout usage and the play calling or the decisions on special teams sometimes, or why'd you hold on to that timeout? I mean, going back even to the Cardinals field goal, why not get a couple more yards, or why not run one more play with 41 seconds? There's so much like why couldn't this happen? There's no real answer. I mean, honestly, the coaches get paid to make these decisions. They make them, and then we have to live with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to the phone lines. That's Ron Johnson, 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. Let's go to, I'm feeling Dave in Minneapolis. Welcome to Vikings Fan Line.
Hey, Norda, and hey, Ron. This is actually Dave in Tennessee. Dave in South Carolina previously that they called you. I only call when I think it's important. So
no, I appreciate it. I actually would have taken your call sooner if it had said Dave in Tennessee instead of Dave in Minneapolis, but that's a story I'm not going to explain to you. Please continue, Dave.
I understand, Norda. Trust me. I understand. Don't worry about it. Listen, I'm going to the game in 2 weeks in Charlotte. There's a lot of things I want to see on the field that I can't see right now. I'm a guy that, played college baseball. Football is my passion, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know X's and O's any better than Ron, but I'm going to say this. I've been going to games since 1976 and watching this team all over the country. And if you want to use the word morose, I'm completely disenchanted, okay? I've been Zimmer's biggest proponent. I have always had a problem with Cousins. To Ron's point, I think if they were going to bring him in, they should have had things ready for him when they brought him in. They did not. They extended him. They should not. Now, here's my point. Mike Zimmer has had his fingerprints, and you touched on this, Norda, on everything about this franchise. People have come and gone. People have been promoted. They've made decisions. Nobody's talked about this, but I was completely dumbfounded. I understood the use of the first timeout. Let me just make my point if you can give me a minute or so. Mm-hmm. I understood it at the end of the half. You take 3 consecutive timeouts to get yourself ready for what's going to happen next, correct? We didn't know about the penalty. That's besides the point. Then you have a player on the field. You've had 3 consecutive timeouts to discuss every situation. Call a timeout that then allows them to go in and get 2. My point is, I just don't understand it. He was out-coached and maneuvered by Stefanski. I think you saw what would have happened if we would have kept him as coach, just like when we lost Mike Tomlin and we had to endure Childress, just like when we lost Tony Dungy and we had to endure some things with Dennis Green at the end. I just think that there needs to be a new view on this. And I'm going to be in a hotel with the team. I'm going to do my best to get a feel, because I'm going to tell you, at this point, I'm watching games, and I'm saying to myself, if we lose next week, and I hate to go there, Ron, we're going to be right there for that first pick. And what this franchise needs to happen is stop going 7-9, or excuse me, at this point 7-10 and 8-9, and just let's lose, because this talent on this team and this front office has done a good job. But this coach needs to stop coaching and calling plays. He needs to focus on managing the game. He's not been simpatico with his quarterback. And at this point, guys, I don't have a problem with Cousins. I don't have a problem with Rick Spielman. I have a problem with the fact that this has gone on too long. It's an offensive league. Look at the Chiefs today. They came back at the end again.
Hey, I appreciate it, Dave, and I appreciate the passion. And maybe you and I can join each other for a podcast sometimes. But I do want to get to some other people that have called in. Vikings fan line, 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. Let's check out Mark in Warren. Welcome to Vikings fan line.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it so much. Like Dave was saying there, same thing, like, hats off to the front office. Like, they've given Zimmer the reins to bring in players. We've seen the disaster last year. Zimmer brought in players, and it just seems like with Zimmer, the players are not playing up to expectations. So I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to hang up and listen, but is it the coach or is it the players? Thanks, guys, for taking my call.
Yeah, what do you think, Ron? And in fairness to both points, and this is going to come hot and heavy because at 1-3, and yeah, if it goes to 1-4, or just if this team continues to struggle and lose games, we're going to hear about this every week. And so just put this one up on a tee and hit it wherever you want to, Ron, in terms of Zimmer certainly having autonomy over who comes in the doors here, and specifically on defense, the money spent this offseason and several other off seasons, starting from Linval Joseph, who certainly was a great addition in 2014, up to now. Zimmer or the players, what do you think?
You can't blame just one entity. So let's dispel this first. Every coach gets to bring in who they want. I've never seen a coach a team, and other than maybe the Dallas Cowboys, where the head coach has no say-so in who they bring in. It's his team. He's telling you how he wants to build the team. Him and the GM should work hand in hand. That's why owner GM should not be a thing, because you're kind of you have two votes, and it is just unfair. Whereas with Spielman and Zimmer, it is a collaboration because they have to go to the Wilfs, and the Wilfs, for the most part, are probably looking back at them like, look, we don't really know the football the way you guys do. We hired you guys to build us a team. And so they do work hand in hand. But Jerry Jones, being owner and GM, he's like, look, it's my team, and I'm the GM. You're going to do what I do. Here's the guys. You go coach them for me. So that's probably the one situation where it's a little bit different. But every coach is bringing in the guys they want. So that's not a thing to say he's bringing in these guys and they're not winning.
Yeah, but what I think they're getting at, though, and I completely understand that, the idea that, people who are mad at Zimmer are painting the idea that now there is a track record of underperforming individuals, and in particular, let's just keep it on the defensive side of the ball. Would you agree or disagree with that? How do you view that idea now for a guy that does get to bring in his own players as head coach and has been doing it now into his 8th year, that there's some frustration with what we're seeing consistently on the defensive side of the ball, probably all of 2020 and now this short stint so far into 2021?
Well, 2020 was a weird year. We're not even count that. That didn't happen. 2021, the only guy right now that you could say he bought in that people aren't high up on is Bashad Breeland. But Patrick Peterson's done what he's supposed to. Xavier Woods looks pretty good. The two guys inside, Tomlinson and Pierce, are doing their job. They are a huge change from last season. Even go back, Sheldon Richardson now is doing a better job being in the game. He had the bat down. He's getting pressure because he is a true 3 technique, 5 technique type of guy. He's not a run stopping. He never has been a run stopping, nose tackle type of guy. Everson Griffin brought him back, doing well. Drafted Daniil Hunter, drafted Harrison Smith, drafted Xavier Rhodes. Go back to even Trey Waynes. Mackenzie Alexander has grown into the guy we see him now. So I think we are too much of what have you done for me lately and not looking at the whole scope of his resume. He's bought in, so you can't throw that out. You can't just say, hey, okay, they suck now, so let's talk about how they suck. They've done well, and they don't suck right now. They've lost games by 7 and 3 and field goals and could have won these games. Again, it's the emotional reaction. It's the 1-3. It's all that. I get it, but it's not. The sky is not falling. It's not like this team is bad. They are right there. It's again, if they were just getting their butts handed to them, I have no problem saying that. It's not happening. It's what Andre Patterson said, is we have to get some guys to play where we need them to play and do the things we need them to do. And honestly, a lot of it sounded like it was Breeland, sometimes. And I know there was times where Patrick Peterson might have plastered his guy too soon and covered 2 and not honored the corner route. But, again, that's just Patrick Peterson being the man type of corner that he's been. But I think Dancer came in today and did pretty well. Last year, Dancer struggled a little bit. He came in today and he looked good. He went up against Odell Beckham. So I gotta wait it out. I'm not saying he's bringing in guys and it doesn't work.
I got you, my man. 651-989-5326, 800-320-5326. One more segment, Minnesota Vikings fan line, before it's a handoff to Vikings overtime. Saucy, A.J. Mansour in the mix for that as well. So Vikings fan line, one more segment. Stick with us.
Third and goal from the 12. Nice pocket. Fires! Touchdown! Justin Jefferson with a 12-yard touchdown, and the Minnesota Vikings right first.
Welcome back. Final segment, Minnesota Vikings fan line. Ron Johnson by my side, and we'll wrap up as the Vikings lost 14-7 today to the Cleveland Browns. They're 1-3. It's a nooner next week. I believe it's a nooner against Carolina as well in 2 weeks. So 2 more games left before a bye week that will then feature the suddenly ass-kicking Dallas Cowboys on the other side of that. So, but let's focus on what's in front of us. Vikings lost to the Browns today. And let's start with Tim in Farmington. Welcome to Vikings Fan Line.
Yes, hello. Thanks a lot, guys. I just wanted to say that you're really a refreshing break from the cynical Cory Cove. And Ron, I just love you because you hate the Packers and the Gophers. Or not the Gophers, but the Badgers. There we go. Thank you so much for that. We're lucky to have you. My concern was the call against KJ Osborne, the push-off. I didn't see a push-off there. And then at the very end of the game, it's like Adam Thielen was being mugged in the end zone. It's like, where was the pass interference called there? You know, they didn't call that. And we should have had one final play at the 1-yard line to maybe tie that game up. What do you think about that? That was atrocious, I thought.
Hey,
I'll say the KJ Osborne. It's the arm when he extended it back, and so whether his extension created any help or advantage, it doesn't matter because it's up to interpretation. When a ref sees that or a back judge sees that arm, and then the DB is not close, even if it didn't affect it, they're going to throw that. That's why, just keep running with your arms forward. Don't worry about the DB because Kirk put it in a great spot. And I think that's kind of the problem there. As far as the Adam Thielen in the end zone, it's the same thing. In the same picture, in the same frame, Adam Thielen has his hands around the back of the DB's shoulder pads. And so they're going to just say, hey, both of you are fighting for position. We're not going to end this game on a flag. Let's just let it play out. Because if Adam Thielen was able to throw the guy off and catch it, I don't know if they call that, because that's the one thing people always say about Hail Marys or into the game plays is don't be afraid to push a little bit as far as a receiver or throw a guy or move a guy, because they're probably not going to call offensive pass unless it's just egregious. They're not going to call offensive pass interference, which is kind of the Kyle Rudolph Saints. He probably did push off. But into the game plays like that, they try not to let it be ruined by a referee. They try. And that was in that instance. That's just the way it played out.
You know what he was missing, and I appreciate the call and the positive words. I love Cory Cove personally, but it's all good. And he'll be.
And
back.
I don't hate the Packers, by the way. I do hate the Badgers. I don't hate the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, how can you hate? No, actually, you can hate them, but that's a different subject, different time. You know what he didn't mention? He didn't mention the most preposterous call of the entire game, Ron. And it's an awful loser's lament when your team loses and you're sitting here, specifically in this spot, complaining about referees' decisions. But the fourth down holding call in the end zone by Eric Kendricks is actually terrible. So the other two, you got extended arms, you got fighting on both sides in the end zone. It's a Hail Mary. You're already behind the 8 ball just by having to throw a Hail Mary in the first place. You stop him on fourth down. Kendricks did not hold that receiver. That was awful, and in that moment, a game-changing scenario, which ultimately leads to a touchdown. That was terrible. Tim should have led with that.
Yeah, because, again, it's on the left side of the center. So if you draw a line down the middle of the field, the fact that the quarterback is running to his right, not even looking that way, it is not a hold, and it wasn't even long enough or affected the play in any way whatsoever. And so, yeah, that instance, that's just a ref who was bored and hadn't thrown a flag all day and said, you know what, I got to get rid of this thing at some point, and he just did it. But it's the back judge that was right in his face, but it didn't affect the play at all. Baker had already started running right, like he was already rolling out right. That was his plan. It was a design, create a new pocket to the right so that Danielle Hunter can't get to him, and that was bogus.
Absolutely. Let's get to Mike from Stillwater. Time for a couple more calls. What up, Mike?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Couple of quick things, then I'll hang up. Number one, I want to go back to what Ron mentioned earlier on a caller about what Cousins does best. The rollout, play action, I know the run game was a little iffy today, but I think that there could be an opportunity to just give that thing a try, because I've seen it in the past with Cousins where he is able to go ahead and just slice and dice defenses with that, regardless of the run, in my opinion. Second thing, I think it's kind of a broken record thing, but some of these play calls, either at the end of the first half or towards the end of the game, are just, in my opinion, kind of garbage, and they lack urgency, trying to get points and just kind of settling for whatever we get. And I feel like if we put more effort, especially towards the end of the game here, if we put that same kind of effort as well as kind of a up-tempo, hurry-up offense mentality, we have a chance. And lastly, I'll say, I think, in my opinion, I think we're definitely seeing the effects of not having an Anthony Barr type at linebacker. I know Nick Vigil's doing a pretty outstanding job, but I think we're definitely missing that experience and that capability out of Barr to kind of keep some of those running backs and those short passes at bay, in my opinion. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you. Ron, I totally agree with him. Anthony Barr, in terms of specifically stopping the run, Vigil just got worked today by Kareem Hunt on a couple of different occasions, including a 3rd and 20. What are your thoughts? I don't see, in terms of this particular game, I didn't see an awful issue in terms of urgency. You saw that second to final stretch where they handed off to Dalvin twice in a row, but I didn't have a massive issue with that, given timeouts and time and such. But end of half, it kind of goes back to those the 2-minute offense, 2-minute defensive scenarios where sometimes things just don't look as fluid as maybe we'd like them to.
Yeah, and so I'm going to give you a stat because, when you said that, I had to go back to my stats from earlier today, and I brought that up. And so in the last 2 minutes of the second and the fourth quarter, the Minnesota Vikings defense has given up 45.8% of first downs or touchdowns, which is the worst in the NFL. They've given up 3 touchdowns, which is tied for the worst in the NFL. And they're tied with the New York Giants. So that's not a great, of course, San Francisco's in there. Green Bay's actually giving up 3 as well, but then Green Bay's third downs are actually pretty good. They're at 29%. So 45, almost 46% of first downs or touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of the second and the fourth quarter. That's perplexing. That's like troubling. Like, what's going on? And then you look at yards gained. 11.3 yards have been gained per play in the last 2 minutes of the second and fourth quarter. The next closest team is 7.1. It's a 5-yard difference. Kansas City is not second to last, and then you have the Tennessee Titans at 6.5. Everybody's within that 6.5 to 4, and the Vikings are at 11.3. So that's got to get fixed fast. I know Zimmer gets these same numbers. I know these coaches look at the same film at the last 2 minutes. This stuff comes up. I don't know how, because I'm not a defensive guy, but you've got to fix it. You have to, because that's not a good look. You can't win games like that. If teams are always scoring in the, going into the half, and then if they happen to, which Cleveland did, coming out and getting the ball, it's a momentum killer. And that's what we're seeing.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for all you do on TV. Thanks for hanging out with me today during Fan Line.
Appreciate it. No, thank you.
Any quick twitch in terms of, just go out and beat the winless Lions next week, right?
Yeah, don't let the Lions, if you let the Lions win, that really is going to end the season. Then we're going to have a different type of fan line next week. If they beat the Lions, if the Lions beat them, my mother's going to be up here because it's my daughter's turning 7, so it's her birthday weekend.
Okay.
So we're taking them to the Vikings game, and Yeah, that would be. I mean, my brother-in-law's coming. He's a Detroit. I mean, they're all from Detroit, so he's a Detroit Lions fan. So that would make my Sunday night horrible, having to go back home to a brother-in-law and a sister even that would be happy that the Lions won. I can't deal with that. I want to go home on Sunday night next week and be able to laugh at my sister. Like, that would be fun. Like, I don't want to have to hear that the Lions are better than the Vikings, because at that point they'll have the same record. And then we can't argue, like, we can't hold off the Jackals anymore. Like, we literally just have to open the floodgates and, talk about getting the first round draft pick, all that crap. Because 1-3, yeah, there's a chance. 1-4, that's tough, because if the Packers win, then you put yourself, 3 games to 4 games back.
Wow.
Or 3 games back. So it's just, they can't lose to the Lions. Quick twitch, you got to put pressure on Goff. He threw for 300 yards today. So it's the same Lions we saw with Stafford there. They just defensively have never figured it out, and hopefully they don't figure it out that weekend. I think Kirk Cousins throws for 300. He fixes it next week. Justin Jefferson and Thielen come back and have a great game, and Dalvin with another week to rest, kind of rest during practice. He's a little bit more healthier for that game.
I dig it. Thanks for what you do. Talk to you soon, my man.
Appreciate it. See you soon.
That's Ron Johnson. You hear him during Fan Line each and every week, typically with Cory Cove. It's Nordo from 9 to noon today. Thank you to those that called in. For those that we didn't get to hear from, we'll catch you next time. The Vikings losing 14-7 today. To familiar faces just on the other sideline this time around, the Cleveland Browns. They go to 3-2, or excuse me, they should be 3-1. The Vikings now 1-3. Next up is the Detroit Lions, and it is a noon kickoff next Sunday. Pregame starting at 10 a.m. on 100.3 FM. The Fan, the Vikings radio network, pops in at 11. Kickoff shortly after noon, and hopefully the Vikings put the winless Lions into the loss column yet again. Thank you so much for listening to Minnesota Vikings Fan Line. Vikings Overtime, starring Meat Sauce Paul Lambert, AJ Mansour, and what the hell, I'm not doing anything else. I'll stick around. That is next on